Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Matt McFarlane here from The Growing Season, but you already know that because if you're watching this video, you've probably had us install plant materials on your job site. Firstly, many thanks for your patronage. Your trust in us humbles me. We are honored to have been involved in beautifying your landscape. All right, so now you got stuff in your property. What do? You have these plant materials that you've probably never had before, and you're curious how to take care of them. All right, 2 W's, the WOAs. Water and weeding. We're going to tackle watering in a minute, but weeding is something that you have to do. This is the same as mowing your lawn. And actually, I tell clients this: when you go out to mow your lawn, weed the flower beds. Now, most of the time people think, oh man, weeding, this takes so long. It actually doesn't if you stay on top of it. It's cumulative. If you do it this week, next week is way easier. How do you do it? Well, I'm going to show you. Firstly, you need a tool. What manner of medieval weaponry is this? Okay, these are cultivators. This is how you're going to weed your flower beds, and it's really, really simple. All you got to do is get yourself a 4-prong cultivator. But what I do is I buy myself 2. I get a 4-prong, and I get another 4-prong. And what I do is I cut the outer 2 prongs off. Why do I do that? Well, as your plant materials mature, they get bigger. And we find that it's tough to get something of this size into mature flower beds. In fact, one of the staples of the growing season is we like to pack the flower beds. I basically don't want to see topsoil, and that helps to reduce the number of weeds. So speaking of weeds, how do you do this? Well, what I do is I take my 2-prong cultivator. Here's my front flower bed. And what I do is I literally take it and I run it through the flower beds. That's it. Once a week. You heard me say it, right? When you go to mow your lawn, include this as part of the mowing of the lawn. You can get in there and pick the big weeds, but the little guys, the guys that are this big, you don't have to pick those. Literally take your cultivator, run it through the flower bed, and turn all of those weeds underneath. They become natural humus. They become organic matter. That's all you got to do. And then, oh boy, the dreaded edging. How do we keep that edge so pristine? Okay, so firstly, we do a really nice edge in the spring. I extract all of that grass out, toss it away. And then every week after you've done your cultivating, we take your spade. This is what we call a spade. Okay, the rectangular edge. Notice the sharp edge. We actually take a grinder to all of ours probably once a week, sharpen that edge up. You literally take your spade, put it against the edge, right here, making sure you can see it, right here, down and flick, down and flick, down and flick, down and flick, down and flick. You'll notice it gives you that nice crisp edge. So cultivate first, which was going to bring all of your soil down to the edge. Then the very last thing, you take your spade and you flick. Okay? And finally, we're going to finish off with some watering. So watering is a term that we use basically from about week 3 onwards. And what I mean by week 3 is your plant materials have now been in your flower beds for basically 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, we always utilize something called saturation watering. What that means is this. So you look at my little salvia here, and I'm gonna actually adjust the head. We use a shower, so we use the shower setting. Okay, so when I go to water, I'm watering at the root system here, okay? And when I say saturation watering, what that means is you want to see the water sitting on top of the topsoil. This does not count as watering. That's it. Notice all of that water has disappeared. But here, look, we have that water sitting on top of the soil. All of the air pockets, all of the spaces between the little molecules of topsoil have now filled up with water. The reason why we recommend saturation watering in the first 2 weeks is those are the critical 2 weeks when it comes to ensuring success of your plant materials going forward. So here's the little plan. The first week, saturation water morning and evening. Now, if this landscape has been installed close to a time period when it's going to be insanely hot, you might need to add a noon watering, okay, if you're able to do that. If not, morning and evening, okay? So as early morning as you can stand, and then evening. That's in week 1. In week 2, you can go down to morning or evening if the temperatures are relatively average and not crazy hot. If not, you have to go back to your morning and evening, okay? Week 3, and then going forward, you can scale back to probably 2 or 3 times a week. Now, the plants are going to tell you, if you see the leaves hanging like this, you have to add another watering. But if you notice now, that water has disappeared, okay? But when I say saturation watering, let's go over to this little hukra, and if you've had a job installed by us, by the growing season, you've probably got hukra on your job site, right? So I'm gonna hit this, okay? And then what I might do is I might go over, let's say, to my ruby slippers here, and I'll water my ruby slippers, okay? Notice that I'm not trying to spray it all over the top. I try to get down to the root system, especially in hot times. Those leaves with the water, or those leaves, the water sitting on the leaves can actually scorch them a bit if it's wickedly hot out. Then what I'll do is I'll come back to my hukra and look, and if I can see that soil's saturated, like that soil still has water sitting on it right there, you're good. That's called saturation watering, which we recommend for the first 2 weeks after plant installation. Once again, growingseasoncanada.com, and if you're watching this, many thanks for your patronage.